All right, so this podcast, we're going to talk a little bit about the internet and what that really means. The internet's basically just a giant network that people let traffic through to servers, right? So somebody owns routers and links that they pay for that they let our traffic go across. Um, so how do we get on the internet? Well, you need a connection to the network, which normally we get from like Verizon or Comcast at home, and at businesses as well can get connections from the same place. We need that connection to get out on the internet and be able to access things. But what do we need to do if we want to be on the internet and have people get to us? Right. So say we want to create our own domain name. We'll go with richisthebest.com because I think that'd be an awesome domain name to own. So what happens if we want to make that happen? Well, first thing we need to do is we need to go buy richisthebest.com. So you can go someplace like GoDaddy or any other number of places and see if the domain is available. So we'll type in richisthebest.com. And let's see, manage tell me, hey, it is available for $12.99. I could add richisthebest.us for $3.99. So I'm not going to do that because I'm not actually going to buy it. So you click add, you go through the process of buying it, and then once you buy it, you have to tell the registrar one thing. And that thing you need to tell the registrar is where to find your name servers. We haven't talked about DNS yet, but we will in a little while. Not a little while, like towards the end of the semester, we'll actually set up our own DNS servers. But basically what happens is if somebody on the internet types in richisthebest.com, they will ask their name server, what's the IP address for richisthebest.com? And through a process of asking other name servers and using information you may already have, that name server will return to that client the IP address of richisthebest.com, assuming that I have made it available on a name server available in the internet. So basically, once I buy this domain, I would have to tell GoDaddy where my name servers are. Right, my name servers need to be accessible on the internet with public IP addresses so people can get to them and ask them questions. So you can host them locally on some computer at your location and have people get to it that way. My DNS for my domains I currently own are hosted in the Amazon cloud in the Route 53 service. This is a DNS service. So essentially, this is the DNS records I have for my site, learntosub.net, right? So basically, here's the A record for learntosub.net. If somebody types www, that is a C name that points to learntosub. That points to the bare domain name, and that is how people could get to my website. So to get on the internet, you need to have people access you. In the primary fashion people do. Of course, people could go by IP addresses. If you're like, hey, well, just go to my IP address. That's not very user friendly. That's not something you're going to do in the real world. You're going to get a domain name. Buy a domain name. You tell them your name servers. Configure your name servers to host your domain name. That's pretty much it. So the other thing you need is IP addresses. You need a public IP address. Most of the time, if you are a residential customer, you will get the one IP address, public IP assigned to your cable, your edge device, your firewall, or your wireless router, or whatever it is you have at the edge. And all of your clients will use network address translation, or NAT, to get out to the internet. So you only have one IP address. So if people want to get in to your location, they can go to that private IP address, and you can do inbound NAT to translate the addresses and send stuff in. But that's very limited. You can only have a limited number of services running behind that. For example, if you wanted to set up multiple web servers, right? Web servers listen on TCP port 80, right? If you wanted to set up multiple web servers, all listening on port 80 on different local machines, you couldn't do that with one IP address. So you would need multiple IP addresses for that. So that's when you negotiate with your provider when you sign up for your service. You say, hey, yo, I also need 10 extra IP addresses, and then they'll allocate those extra addresses for you and set up the routing to route them to you, and you can work through that. But that's getting a little ahead of things. So that's how you would go about getting on the internet. Another thing you might want to know or need to know is what's your IP address, right? So once you're on the internet, you may want to know what your IP address is. Like I said, we're using that before, so if I look at my IP address on my actual machine, it is 172.16.99.213. That is a private address. We look over here at this stuff I have in D2L. That's a private address in this range. Private addresses were defined in RFC 1918. They can be used locally, but on the internet, this will not work because they're private. They do not get routed anywhere. So we need to do the network address translation. So that happens at my house. Happens on my firewall. It could happen on your cable modem or your wireless router, sometimes depending on what kind you have. So sometimes you might need to know what your actual public IP address is. You could always connect into your device, your router, firewall, whatever you have at the edge, and see what the IP address is. Or you could go to a website like what'smyipaddress.org and see what your IP address is. So if you're ever talking to somebody at a company you're trying to do business with and it's not working, and like, oh well, what's your IP address? If you find your IP locally and say, oh, it's 172.16.99.213, hopefully they'll laugh at you because they'll be like, oh, you're not very smart, are you? Because that's a private IP address. What's your public IP address? This is what they want to know. Go out, find what your public IP address is. How does this website know what your public IP address is? Well, when you connect to it, your traffic has been NATed, translated, and they have to know where to send the packets back to. So this IP address is when they receive the packet, is in the source IP source field, source IP address field, and then when they reply, they send the traffic back to this IP address. So it's not really rocket science. So that's how you can figure out what your IP address is. Another thing that is helpful is to be able to find information out about other people. Say you're looking in the logs on your server and you want to know what IP address it is. For example, let's get a real example. Let's see. I was looking at these logs on my server the other day. Let's see if I can scroll back up far enough. I was looking at these logs on my server the other day. Oh, here we go. This server's on the internet. Bad people exist on the internet, so they try to do bad things. So here's somebody trying to log into my server as root. I have a decently strong password for root, and I've also disabled direct logins as root. So there's no way possible this person is ever going to successfully log in as root on my server because root can't log in as on my server. I can't even log in on my server as root, and I know root's password. So I'm not concerned about this from a security perspective. However, if I were to see a log in here that says, hey, accepted password for root from whatever, then I'd be like, holy crap, that's not good. So in that case, you may want to try to figure out who this IP address belongs to. So we can use some tools, some internet tools to do that. Try to copy that. Let's see, some internet tools to do that. The registrars who give out the IP addresses also keep track of who they give them out to. So if you look in Aaron, hopefully this is going to work. Go ahead and test this link lately. Copy link. See what the link looks like. Who is? Maybe I should check that link. All right, if you want to find out who that IP address belongs to, you can paste it up here in the WHOIS box. That's not right. I already didn't copy that. Let me go copy it again. Edit, copy. So you can paste that in and search for it, and it says, oh, hey, here's who that IP address belongs to. In this case, it says it belongs to Asia Pacific Network, which isn't all that shocking considering they're trying to brute force my root password on my server. A lot of bad things on the internet come from over there. So in this case, I don't really get the information I need because all it says is, hey, I don't know. I just know it belongs to Asia Pacific. So now I need to go to the Asia Pacific page and look up who it belongs to over there. So I'm going to put in appnik WHOIS in a Google search. Appnik WHOIS. and I'm going to paste the IP address in over there, and hopefully I'll get something useful. All right, so this tells me that this IP address was given out to World Crossing Telecom in China, Guangzhou, China. So this is an ISP. So apparently one of their customers is doing things that isn't necessarily nice. So in theory, should I actually be concerned about this, I could try to contact Peter Liu or Xi Zhang about this situation. I'd send them an email or try to call them and be like, hey, one of your IP addresses is blah, blah, blah. They probably don't care because probably all their IP addresses are trying to hack you right now. So anyway, in theory, if that is how you, if you wanted to find out who an IP address belongs to, you can do it that way. Another reason you might want to find out who an IP address belongs to, say you are, something's not working in your network and it's part of your troubleshooting. You did a trace route, right? And say the trace route made it, we'll just go ahead and kill this. Assume the trace route made it this far and then quit working. That's actually what happened in this case. But say the trace route made it this far and quit working. You need to find out who owns this router. So you can be, hey, I'm getting to your router and then it's dying. Could you look into that? Maybe it's something. Maybe they have a problem they don't know they're having. So similar thing in this case. We'll copy this IP address. Copy this IP address. Go back to the Aaron who is, because I'm pretty sure that's going to be in the U.S. As I said, there's regional. So there's Asia Pacific. There's an American registry. There's like a European registry. I don't even know what it's called. So this IP address actually belongs to Google. So in this case, the traffic was making it all the way to Google, but they were probably not permitting traceroute any farther than that. Let's go ahead and grab one of these other ones. Here, let's try this one. This one has an IP. Let's say this was the last IP we saw. And it says, oh, that's Comcast. We call Comcast. We're like, hey, Comcast, can you look into this or whatever? So that's how you can look up information about who a IP address belongs to. In the lab, I ask you to look up information about your own, so I'll go ahead and do mine. What the heck just happened? So paste. I guess I didn't copy that, huh? Copy. I was trying to go to that page. I don't have a web server listening right now. Search, paste. So in the homework, this is what I ask you to do, right? It's Comcast. I ask you to find some of this information, so just pull out whatever I asked for and paste it in to the answer boxes. So that's how you find out information about a IP address. What if you want to find out information about the domain name? Say, you're getting spammed from www. Or from, spambot at richisthebest.com. Well, let's not use richisthebest.com because that's not a real domain. Say you're getting spam from yahoo.com. That's a good one. Well, first of all, I'll tell you, don't worry about it because most spam source addresses are spoofed, so it doesn't really matter. You can make a mail look like it's coming from anybody you want. So I'll tell you, don't worry about it too much. But in theory, if for some reason you were interested in who owned the domain name, you could go look it up here. You say, oh, I'm very interested in knowing some information about yahoo.com. Actually, let me do what I said. Did I say to look it up? I can't remember. I'll do comcast.com because that's who my provider was. So you look up information about the domain. We're waiting. So here's information about the domain. Find out the domain name, the name servers. Remember I told you when you register your domain, you have to tell the name servers, and then some other stuff. Sometimes you can get information about the domain owner should you want to contact that domain name owner. Let's see if we get anything for Yahoo. No, nothing for Yahoo. Let's see. Let's look at Hack. Maybe Hack has contact information for the domain. All right, so here's what you might actually see, right? In this case, you get some actual information about the domain, which would probably be what you're looking for. If you're looking up the domain name, you want to know some people you can contact to find out information, probably. And our domain expires 31 July 2014. I wonder if they know that. So anyway, that's basically the basics of getting on the internet, how the internet kind of works, and looking up IP addresses to find out who owns them, and then also looking up domain names to find out who owns them.